this memorandum is intended to just highlight that, unsurprisingly, I think, to anybody, we are a several century-old city with a lot of old infrastructure, and we've got a lot of needs. But in the meantime, this is trying to collaborate some of the housing production targets that were in the plan that you subsequently removed, that were double and triple what our current housing productions are, and how those might translate over the time period of our comprehensive plan. So what you see is basically where different growth rates might hit 80% capacity in these plants. And that 80% capacity is important for a couple of reasons. One is when you're talking, for example, about water delivery specifically, we source a lot of our water from the Huron River, and so we want to build in some flexibility to make sure that in the case of higher or lower periods of drought or moisture, we have the ability to continue to serve. But it's also more practically a good trigger when we actually start talking to the state about, hey, we're getting at our 80% capacity. It's time for us to start talking about what our long-term investment strategies are.
It feels to me like on the drinking water side, the way that I read those graphs, like already things were going to get close, and so we should be thinking about what that looks like. And it also makes me wonder, what are some of the bigger users of water? And I know that we've since I've lived in town, we've moved to pricing water where the first like basic human needs are cheaper, and then we escalate the prices if you are a super user of water. But it makes me think about like how many people are watering their lawns, right, washing their cars, and like if there's actually water savings that can help make us not necessarily have to think about new water treatment plant in 2035, right? So, and I don't know what that's like.
And then the other thing, which I think I remember from Mr. Dehoney's report, is one of the problems is people are conserving water, which means that the city is getting less money for water, and that can be a downstream problem.
I want to say it is not factually accurate that our infrastructure cannot handle the development that we anticipate in the comprehensive land use.
Well, so two things, if I could just start. There are limits to there is a limit to our source. And I think that's stated here in the beginning. Eagle only allows us to draw a certain amount of water from the Huron River.
But we have a secondary source.
The secondary source, as far as I know, are wells.
And we are getting 15% from there right now.
Correct.
And while they were under some of the transition, they were going to increase that draw so that they could.
The increase, I don't think, is going to be substantial.
Significant? Sure, okay.
But yes, I mean, they are looking at how to expand. I think one thing that's important to note, though, is that this is saying 10 years is not that long for long-term planning, right? That with our current projections, by 2035-ish, we're going to be hitting our limits. So
At the high-end growth.
At the high-end growth rate. So the answer is yes and no.